All right, good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Byron Douglas.
Yeah, and I'm meteorologist Arden Gregory, and we have had quite the morning here, and it looks
We got to laugh for a second.
We've had quite the morning here at the station. We took some direct lightning hits during 14 First Alert at noon, so if you were watching that, a real glimpse into live television there. But then moving forward, I think we've only got more interesting a more interesting day ahead of us. We've got some storms we're tracking right now with an even greater threat of severe storms later this evening. So why don't you just jump into it, Byron?
This is not the main event, and what we're going to explain. We're going to do, some folks are out there in their lunch hour, so we're going to do some nowcasting. These storms have primarily been for hail, some brief damaging winds. There's a look at the alert day. We'll just grab this full for a second. So all those threat markers are on the table, includes that damaging wind and, of course, tornado threat. Now, the morning round, as Arden's been tracking, is for damaging winds and that tornado threat, and then here are the risks from the Storm Prediction Center.
Yeah, so essentially the whole tri-state sitting in that level 3 risk here. So you can see we're all kind of in this orange shade here. Just to our east, you get into that yellow level 2, and just to our west, just to our west, it even clips part of Wayne County, we have that level 4 risk for a widespread threat of severe weather. So we are well into this. It does seem like it may be worse off to our west, but certainly across the tri-state, we are in that level 3 threat, which does mean numerous severe storms as we go through the day today, with even more widespread and significant severe weather just off to our west as well. And we've already had multiple severe storms here today.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. We have that flooding threat, which hasn't been around all year. And we keep in mind, in Oklahoma City and then up in northern Oklahoma, they closed interstates because of severe weather. Not saying that's going to happen, but they're just not safe areas because of the flooding threat.
And I will say, I don't think this will be a lengthy flooding threat. It should drain off pretty quickly. There's plenty of room in the creeks and ditches and streams. We're in a drought right now, but the problem is sometimes the rain comes down so hard, so fast, so heavy that it can't run off the roads into those storm drains as fast as it's coming down. So we may deal with some very isolated flooding, mainly in urban areas where maybe it can't run off the roads fast enough. But once it does, we shouldn't see any long-term flooding from this because it has been so dry.
Now we have a severe thunderstorm warning for Warwick County, eastern stretches of Vanderburgh County, and then you go over to St. Louis. North of St. Louis, there's that red polygon. That's a radar-indicated tornado warning. So those are the latest warnings, and they're primarily for damaging winds and a hail threat. Now we'll go over to Doppler radar. We'll do some nowcasting here on Doppler radar. We're going to do that right now. So the worst of the storm, as you take a look, and we can tighten this up just a bit. And again, Arden's look at the comments section. So it looks like the worst part of that storm, let's tighten this just up, is out of Vanderburgh County. So once the National Weather Service updates, and generally the core of that is right over Boonville, you get out towards Oakdale. You see where this lightning is as we take a look at this polygon. I'm going to bring it up here full in a moment. So if you're out on your lunch hour, Highway 62, Boonville, Dagonia Springs, in the lightning, and then you see the components there of white 161, that's a lot of where that hail is.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're seeing in the comments. This is the same storm that moved through Evansville just a little while ago and, nearly knocked us off the air with all that lightning and heavy rain. We do have several people commenting, reporting that they had some pea-sized hail primarily, and Jeff Miller in Savah said he picked up 1¼ inches of rain from this storm. Just that quick, over an inch of rain and some pea-sized hail. Several other reports of some pea to marble-sized hail coming in from places like Poseyville and Evansville, and also some hail in Providence, Kentucky. That's that most recent severe thunderstorm that we got down in western Kentucky a little while ago. They seem to have pulled that warning a little early. The trick with hail storms is that they tend to pulse. So they may kind of fire up, dump some hail, and then they weaken back out. And so they issued that warning because at the time there was some hail, but then it kind of dissipated, and so I think they pulled that warning a little early. But again, the primary threat with the storms we're tracking right now are the threat of hail, heavy rain, and lightning, which many of us have already seen today. And we'll continue to see these very kind of hit or miss thunderstorms through the afternoon. The more widespread threat, though, that comes with the storms later this evening. And we do have some people asking questions about the storms for later tonight, the timing, the threats that people are asking. Was this it? Was this what the severe?
No.
Is this the alert day? These storms that are moving through right now? And like Byron said, the short answer to that is no. This is just kind of the appetizer, the main deal. The primary widespread threat of severe weather is actually later this evening with those storms that are out closer to St. Louis right now. As those move east, the tail end of that line of storms is going to move through the tri-state a little later tonight and bring us a more widespread threat, whereas this is actually fairly isolated. We've got just a couple of thunderstorms that are capable of producing lots of lightning, lots of rain, some hail, but that more widespread threat, that's later on tonight.
And why is it later? Because we're waiting on a cold front. That's still wrapped up. The low is, last check was up in Wisconsin, so you're going to have a couple of lines of showers and storms that'll kind of the swinging gate, if you will. Why are we seeing storms as we take this full? It would be because we do have quite a bit of wind shear aloft. In fact, when I checked before we did our stream this morning, there was really nobody flying over the last plane that was flying over our area at 30,000 feet. They circumnavigate, was showing quite a bit of turbulence in the atmosphere, so they'll circumnavigate around these storms. But we did get some reports from the pilots that at 9, 12, 20, all the way up through the atmosphere, we have quite a bit of wind shear. Look at this hail core. This is a pretty good hail core. So if you have any reports here out in Tennyson along 161, Folsomville, if you're out there at having lunch there in Selvin, and then out towards Segonia Springs on 161. That's a large hail core. And we know earlier from the National Weather Service in Illinois outside of our viewing area had half-dollar size hail.
Yeah, so that is definitely something you want to be aware of. This is not a storm you want to get caught out in. This is large hail, lots of lightning, lots of heavy rain. And this is hail. The reason they issued the warning is when the hail gets that big, it does sometimes become large enough it can cause some damage. You could, see some dents in some cars and things like that if it gets big enough. So definitely a situation you don't want to be caught out in. We have had some reports that they may have some power out in Posey County in the wake of this storm, and getting more reports now of mainly pea-sized hail, but again, there is that potential right in the middle of this hail core that you could have some larger hail as well, so just be very aware of that. And yeah, more people just asking, is this it? Again, the answer is no. This is a more isolated threat. Our widespread threat is for later this evening, and we do have some people asking how these storms might impact that storm threat for later tonight. If they may make it worse, make it better. Have we used up some of our energy? Have we just fed the beast? What's going on here with these storms? So what's your take on that?
I think the answer is it can in some cases, but the one component is now we have the moisture component, which I thought was lacking a little bit with the dew points out there. And the case will be on if we have 2-3 hours of sunshine by the time you check back with Jeff this afternoon, which would destabilize the atmosphere. But irrespective of this morning round, I still think the official word comes from the Storm Prediction Center. We'll have a tornado watch because of when you talk about severe weather, severe thunderstorms, you talk about winds turning with height, and we have quite a bit of wind shear up there. It's a little higher to our west, but enough to rotate these thunderstorms. Yes, there's always a case that it happened in March where they weaken and we had a batch of severe thunderstorm warnings, but remember Grayson County had that tornado warning. It was on the ground for it jumped a bit for about 40 miles. So
and you also
the answer is no,
These storms have not been widespread. There's much of the tri-state that hasn't had a drop of rain yet today. So these scattered storms, if anything, like Byron said, may have just introduced some more moisture into the atmosphere. We were kind of lacking in humidity. It's been very dry recently. We've got drought. The dew points were not all that high. There wasn't a lot of moisture for these storms to work with before today. But now we've just gotten over an inch of rain in some places. As that starts to evaporate, it make it a little muggy, a little sticky out there, and that moisture will then feed our thunderstorm chances for later today. So it's always tricky when you've got 2 rounds of storms. There is that possibility that in some locations the atmosphere may get a little worked over, lose some of its energy, but there's also the possibility that the moisture from these storms is actually just going to feed our thunderstorm chances for later today. or later tonight, I should say, especially as Byron mentioned, if the sun does pop out this afternoon, that'll really crank up that energy and really have us primed for when that cold front moves through later tonight for that widespread damaging wind and tornado threat that we're concerned about later tonight along this cold front.
Yeah, and I think after the rain, the winds are going to ramp up, but look at all this lightning. And the low, I don't know I believe it's up in Wisconsin, but you're going to have these lines here. And I think another one's going to develop down here in Missouri, kind of like the swinging gate. And then the cold front will spark more showers and storms. So we have a radar indicated tornado warning east, that's St. Louis County, Missouri, then as you cross the Mississippi. So Interstate 64 is not going to be a good place to be, especially if you're heading to the west. But this will cycle on through with the cold front. And then as you mentioned, a little bit of sunshine, that would be enough. And there's enough in the upper level winds to support our tornado watch. These are just clusters of, Petersburg, Winslow, Washington, the areas there where on the base reflectivity. Now, the worst part of that storm is out of Vanderburgh County. Here's just a wider view. It's right up over Christney, Newtonville, Christney Elementary, up toward just west there of Dale as you get up towards Nancy Hanks and those locations. Where the red is, yellow, Arden can tell you, that's where the heaviest rates of rainfall are. And when those showers cycled through, it was pretty much downdraft driven, but it's a nasty little thunderstorm. It's a severe thunderstorm warning. We just tell folks to be inside until it clears. And then another one down here, you mentioned the areas that haven't been worked over, Beech Grove, out towards Panther, the golf course there in West Louisville along Highway 56. Those have come up pretty quickly down towards West Louisville.
Yeah, and I know they are making some changes to the severe thunderstorm watch right now, so we'll check in on that in just a second. We do have, like he said, that thunderstorm that started out down in Webster County, kind of near the Hopkins County line around Slaughters, and has been moving to the northeast. We did have a report of some small kind of pea-sized hail down around that way within that thunderstorm, but it seems to be kind of dwindling, so that's why they let that warning expire early. But even if it isn't severe, for those of you in Davis County and Owensboro, be aware that is headed your way. It's moving to the northeast. So that storm that's currently in McLean County starting to move into western Davis County now. As that continues to push to the northeast, you may get lightning, heavy rain, and maybe even some small hail in Owensboro here in the next, I'd say 20, 30 minutes or so. So just be aware of that storm is headed your way. Even if it ends up not being severe, it would be very impactful to anyone caught outside as that is rolling through. And again, our storm chances are going to stay very hit or miss through this afternoon. Then we've got that line of storms moving through later tonight. And I do have some people commenting that they apparently just issued a tornado watch. Again, we're kind of
let me go to the radar.
Byron would say
let's go in and see if
we've got a lot of different irons in the fire right now, keeping up with all the different updates coming in while also trying to communicate them to you. So we're going to check in on our watches and what all's going on there right now. He's working on pulling that up so we can take a closer look. Okay, so we do have that severe thunderstorm watch still in effect until 6 o'clock tonight, but then it seems they've also now added a tornado watch to the west. Right now, that only includes our far western counties, but that watch would then likely be expanded a little later tonight, because 9 o'clock is pretty close to the beginning of our window for tonight.
And there's some uncertainty because we talk for the past few days, you're going to get these tornado watches that last 7 or 8 hours because there's how these storms develop. We talk so much about the modeling, but the report card is what Doppler radar is doing. Like that storm there in western Davis County, we're going to see how fast that comes up because where the upper level support is. Means ingredients are favorable for severe thunderstorms and tornado development. The severe thunderstorm watch for 6 p.m. So we talk about the folks that make comments. It helps us out.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate it. So we're able to call up the graphic.
I got an alert that they were making changes to the watch, but I didn't know what those changes were until we pulled it up and looked at it. So we're all learning here together right now about this tornado watch. I do still have more people asking for more details about the timing for the storms later tonight. And it does seem like it is going to be later tonight. So obviously we are concerned about the threat for hail and heavy rain and lightning with the storms moving through right now. But that tornado watch, that's for those storms that are going to be moving through later tonight. Like Byron mentioned before, we've got this line of storms out into Missouri right now, and kind of the tail end of that storm is going to just keep growing. And then as the whole thing moves to the northeast, the tail end of those storms, possibly storms that haven't even developed
They
yet,
haven't in Missouri yet.
will eventually then move into the tri-state. This will most likely be, I'd say, after 7 or 8 o'clock tonight, at least, maybe closer to 8 or 9. And that's where we will likely see that tornado watch that is right now primarily for Missouri and Illinois, expanded to include more of the tri-state a little bit later. They probably won't have us in 2 watches at one time. So they're going to let these storms move through, let that severe thunderstorm watch expire, then they'll probably expand the tornado watch our way once those storms have developed and we've got a clearer picture of exactly how things are playing out. Because we can forecast, but really until the storms are actually developed and moving and you can track their speed and how they're growing and developing, that's when we'll really know for sure what we can expect here. And we'll be bringing you those updates about that all afternoon and evening as we get closer and closer to that main line of storms. But again, some of you, if you're going to be outside, still be very careful even with these storms this afternoon. We do still have lots of lightning, heavy rain, maybe some small hail up into Warwick and Spencer counties, and then some more heavy rain and lightning moving into southwest Davis County right now, headed toward Owensboro. So if you're going to be outside, if you're outside right now watching us on your phone, if you're in Owensboro, it may be time to start packing things up and moving in, because probably within the next 15 minutes or so, you're going to have some heavy rain and lightning in downtown Owensboro there. And these storms do have a history of also producing some hail. So we're going to continue to monitor that very closely. But again, the storms this afternoon, while they do pose a threat, it's a fairly isolated threat for now. And then we've got that line of storms bringing a more widespread threat later tonight, mainly after 8 p.m. And I think those storms will probably be out of here by 1, maybe 2 a.m. So we'll be tracking these storms late into the night tonight.
Look at this lightning. Folks ask, well, what we do kind of off scenes. We really look, it's kind of like an election night. We're seeing how these first counties perform because the wind's aloft. We know that's going to take this storm from the southwest right into Owensboro, because the winds at 15, 20,000 feet are running at 50 to 60 miles an hour. So it's going to work over this air that, as Ard mentioned, hasn't seen any rain as of yet. So that would be a candidate for a possible severe thunderstorm warning. It's sub-severe, but anytime you have lightning, you want to be indoors there. You get out towards Sargo, Audubon Elementary, Carter Road, those locations, and just out towards Apollo High School comes to mind. And a pretty good hail core on that one as well. So
We've seen these storms pulse up pretty quickly today, so it can happen fast.
Yeah, and of course the ingredients are favorable for severe weather. Yeah, we'll do a little more nowcasting, and then we're going to go to the latest modeling on these storms. But you see that the tornado watch includes southern Missouri, and that that line's going to stretch back into Arkansas before the night's done. Obviously, we're just concerned about our area.
Yeah, this is still a developing situation, especially with those storms out west.
So Christney up to Dale, quite a bit of lightning, no warnings on those particular cells. The velocity tables, we haven't seen any tight couplets today. There's that tornado warning out in St. Louis, right up kind of astride Interstate 70. And then eventually we're going to go to the latest guidance.
We have a few more reports to pass along here. We had someone say they had some dime-sized hail in Seabury, and then Tony says some almost golf ball-sized hail, so probably closer to quarter-size hail near Freedman Park. So that's interesting to know that they are getting some hail within some of these thunderstorms.
That's just east of Castle High School.
Yeah, so as that storm moved through Warwick County, as it's now starting to move out of Warwick County and towards Spencer County, it has had a history of producing hail. So yes, be very aware of that with any storms we see this afternoon.
All right, let's take a look at the modeling. I'm not sure, I think I have the in-house model called up. Now yesterday we weren't showing a lot of action in the afternoon. We were showing maybe just a few stray storms, perhaps on the streams a rogue severe thunderstorm warning or two. We've had about 7 or 8 warnings. So as we go a break, as Arden talked about, winds are southerly, especially off the surface, but a different story as you go up 10 to 20,000 feet.
Yeah, and especially
And
if
here's
the
the
sun
line.
breaks out in that break, that's
Yeah.
where we really get concerned, is if we get some sunshine during that break, that's really going to get us fired up for what's going to happen later tonight.
So in historically, not in all cases, if you throw in some warm weather, I mean, about as nasty as the squall line you can see. So if this would verify, we'll have numerous warnings and some radar indicated tornado warnings invariably, and that's where we have the high-end damaging wind threat, and we do have the tornado threat. When you say damaging winds for a severe thunderstorm, you have to have winds at 58, but we know from the Storm Prediction Center we have the potential for, I mean, the star of the show is wind. Whether it's tornadic or from a severe thunderstorm, it is the wind. So we could have some high-end warnings. There's a look there at the watch. So we'll just be monitoring this throughout the day. We've had, well, there's a look at.
So they did
some
just
more-
issue a warning.
Yeah, we
for
talked
that,
about that. So you're kind of seeing how what we look at real time. So we're going to go in. As long as we have some warnings, we can keep going, right?
Yeah, I've got another stream scheduled for 2:30. So
At
as long as,
2:30.
you know, we can't be out here for another hour and a half. I got to get that one prepped.
Yeah, what the folks don't see at home with the lights in here, must be 130 in here. We need a
Yeah.
heat index in our studio.
Conservatively.
Let's look at these polygons. Owensboro and Davis County, maybe just east there of eastern, right along the Green River, eastern Henderson County. Rio, Rockport, Spencer County, Luce Township, you guys. Christine, we just shouted you guys out to Dale, Tennyson. Southern Knox and Davies, just outside of our viewing area, but we have viewers in Southern Knox from about Decker over to Washington, and then into the southern portions there of the county, north of Ivy and Ireland. So there's a look at the warnings, and we'll go back to Doppler radar in a moment if the computer catches up. So we'll go back and do some nowcasting
As
here on
previously
Doppler radar.
stated, we have taken several lightning hits
Yes,
today.
several.
So some of our technology has been a little glitchy today after those lightning strikes.
It's scary when I work and you Jeff and Michael are computer whizzes, but when I work in real time, it's literally a show. Okay, let's go. I think we're going to go back to. I'm going to be my own Exhibit A. There's a look at the warning there in Owensboro and Davis County. We'll grab this full here in a moment. We were just talking about that. You know, these storms can blossom, you know, in 15, 20 minutes, and it's a big hail producer, but you get in Frederica Street.
It's really grown in
Yeah.
size just since we've been on.
Yes, right, all right there on Frederica into the downtown area, and I probably could go in and maybe get one of our tower cam positions in Owensboro, and maybe I can maybe ask the guys back there.
Yeah, just pop in there and ask them if they can point it that way.
Owensboro
So again,
Skycam.
We're looking at a severe thunderstorm.
Yeah, if you
warning
look,
here. Let me pull up the information on this warning so that I can make
The
sure,
Owensboro camera
we've got everything for you.
pointed into Spencer County.
Okay.
Sorry, I hope I'm not barking at anybody.
So we do have this severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Davis County, and I'm trying to pull up the information on this one here so we can get the exact timing and whatnot for this storm. I'm also dual wielding here because I'm trying to keep an eye on your comments so that we can answer your questions
Oh yes,
as well.
we go.
But I think we've gotten through most of those. But let me get this. Oop, that's the wrong tab. All right, let me get this pulled up here so we can finally take a closer look. We did have a warning issued for Spencer and Pike counties. That is primarily for large hail. That goes until 1:30. And then we've got the severe thunderstorm warning for Davis County, also for large hail. That goes until 1:15. So again, that's the storm we're looking at right now. These are fairly short warnings just because the way these storms tend to pulse. Like we said, they kind of pulse up really quickly, produce some hail, and then kind of collapse back down, and then sometimes pulls back up a few miles down the road. So we'll kind of see this storm come and go, strengthening and weakening on and off, again, kind of pulsing as it moves through, as you often see with hail storms moving through. But we are tracking a severe thunderstorm warning in Davis County until 1:15. Again, the primary threat here is that this storm may be capable of producing some very large hail. And here's the view from our tower cam right now. It's pointed the other way. It's pointed to the north right now into Indiana, where the storm has not reached just yet. So I'll be curious to see as this blows through. It'd be great if
the camera a little left.
They're going to pan it a little left, and
We can't
we're
control
kinda-
the cameras from the room that
Tyler's
we're in
gonna-
right now, but they're
so
gonna work
the-
on it for us. Again, this is not the only warning we have in effect right now. There's also another one in Spencer and Pike counties. There's that
There we go.
storm. Now we can see it starting to roll in.
So we can just keep doing compare, contrast.
Yeah, so
we
there's the radar, and then our camera is located at the River Park Center in downtown Owensboro, right along the river. And the one and only Shaylee Clark just texted me and said, "We're getting hail in Owensboro." You don't say,
Thank you.
Shaylee. Yeah,
So it'll be interesting,
so-
and Shaylee will
yeah,
pass along the
I'm gonna
size
text
of the
her back
hail.
and tell her to send me a photo. How big is this hail?
So there's a look, and we'll work the radar up because it is catching areas there into south of Rio and Rockport. That's going to be right over the big blue bridge. So look at that storm, and then it's just evolving there in real time. And it's pretty much downdraft. You don't see the horizontal rain or anything like that, but I think you're probably
You can see it
capturing the
starting to
hail
come
core
down
there.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of sit with this picture and talk about it. So
Watch
we
this roll in.
severe thunderstorm warnings. We're live on our app, on our streaming, of course, Facebook, all of our platforms. There's a look at the hail core, and of course, the rain cuts into visibility as well, right there in downtown Owensboro. We
Yeah,
followed
this
this
is
storm.
not something I would want to be out driving in.
No, this is not a day at the beach. But we followed that storm, that how quickly that it was kind of germinating in West Louisville, even in Beech Grove in McLean County, and then it's hauling to the north and east. So the Weather Service has done a nice job with the polygon. They might have to extend this.
I think they maybe just made the decision to do so. I don't think it's come up yet, but I think I just got a notification that they are issuing a new warning for Davis and Spencer counties.
Okay.
Um,
And then southern Spencer County, but we also, Spencer County,
and
most
that
of
one's
the,
going to go until 2.
yeah, most of the county should be covered. You have a little dry slot there south of Christie, north of Rockport. But if you're on areas there, Highway 70, and then as you work up to 31, that's going to be, you're not going to want to drive into that. That's, and again, we're concentrating on Owensboro, but you got a severe thunderstorm warning up through Spencer County there as well. And there's a look at the storm that's crossing over into Spencer County from
so
our
Shaylee texted back and said pea-sized hail. In
pea-sized
Owensboro.
hail. So generally that's encouraging, because earlier across Illinois, the size of $50. Nobody carries $50 anymore, but you get up to
Nobody carries anything anymore.
nobody carries it. Yeah, we're cashless. All right. So there's a look at Doppler. The stuff up to the north here is subsevere, and then we get up into Washington
And it
area.
seems like we've got a. Do we have another warning for
Let's-
Du Bois County?
I believe, let's take a look. I'll throw the shades on here. Yes, it catches the southern part there of the county. Good call, Arden, right over
I'm
Holland.
just trying to keep an eye on the.
Right over Holland, yes. Towards the Windmill Chill there, we have a severe thunderstorm warning. We can go ahead and take a look at
Spencer
that.
County EMA is reporting some quarter-sized hail
Yeah.
apparently. So we do have reports of some small hail, but also some larger hail that may be capable of doing some minor damage. So again, definitely not something you want to be caught out in, and not
a look
something
at
you want
Holland.
to be
That's-
driving in either. So if you were about to head that way, give it a minute, let the storm pass.
Right, thank
We
you.
have some reports, multiple reports of hail going on here in Spencer County, as well as with that storm down into Davis County. And again, this storm, I'm calling it the storm in Spencer County, but it stretches up into Du Bois County as well. And then it
Right along
extends,
161
to
there.
the northeast there. So southern Du Bois County also at risk of getting some hail here this afternoon.
Right over St. Henry, north there of Dale, up through Holland, 161, Interstate 64. That's a pretty good hail core there as well. And then that holds together. It's going to be getting into Ferdinand, Huntingburg, and then perhaps St. Anthony, Brettsville Junction, Birdseye, and then into northern stretches of Perry County, west there of Perry Central, and kind of riding Highway 62. We'll take this full and see what the guys in the back are saying. But that's a pretty good storm there at this hour from Holland down into Buffaloville, and then areas out towards Nancy Hanks Elementary and Heritage Hills, some of the school districts in that area. So it's a pretty good storm. And then we'll follow this storm down here in Owensboro and Davis County, that it's
Moving right
racing
through
off to the
downtown
north and east. You
Owensboro.
see how quickly they're moving through the area. So we picked this up down along out just to the west there at Panther and down towards West Louisville. But the main core of that storm is right over downtown Owensboro at this time. So.
And again, that'll continue to move northeast out kind of around the bypass there and up 231 and into southern Spencer County up toward Rockport there and continue to the northeast. And again, with the way these storms pulse, you may have large hail at times, you may have small hail at times. It kind of goes up and down very quickly within these kind of pulsing hailstorms that we're seeing here. But we will continue to see just these very hit or miss thunderstorms through the next couple of hours here through this afternoon, and then we'll continue to monitor that threat of that line of storms stretching back west of St. Louis there that will eventually head our way a little bit later tonight, and that is where we have that greater threat of damaging wind and tornadoes, whereas these storms have really been hailers. It's been really focused on the hail threat, lots of heavy rain, lots of lightning. These are going to be very loud storms as they move through with all the lightning and hail and heavy rain. You're definitely going to hear these roll through even if you're indoors, whereas later tonight that threat will mostly be on the wind. Whether it's straight line wind or tornadic winds, I think we'll see more of a threat to trees and roofs and things like that as we get later into tonight, where these storms that we're tracking right now are posing primarily a hail and frequent lightning threat.
Well, they dropped the warning for Owensboro and Davis County. You talked about it at the very beginning. The storms came up and then they dropped.
Yeah. And
they just don't, we're waiting for the cold front, and that's what you want. If you have a severe thunderstorm warning and they drop it before it's scheduled to ahead of schedule, that's excellent. Hopefully that will continue to perform there in Huntingburg, Ferdinand, those areas along Highway 62, New Boston, Lamar, right along the Anderson there. Got a couple of nasty storms there, but they did drop that warning. I'll just make sure
these
here.
Storms don't have a great forcing mechanism to kind of keep them going, so they are just kind of pulsing in and out. Like we said, they kind of fire up and then collapse back down. Then they may fire back up again as they move into a new area of more untapped energy. Whereas the storms we're expecting later tonight, those are going to be along a cold front, which is going to be the forcing mechanism that is really going to help those storms line up and bring a more widespread threat across the entire tri-state.
Okay, we're gonna shut this portion down, and then we're gonna go over to the studio for any additional warnings, and we'll bring you up to date on. So we'll be on the TV side here in a few minutes, and then you're gonna be back in here at 2:30. Jeff and Michael all.
Lord willing.
Yes. So that's the latest there. I'm gonna grab Doppler full here so we can shut down. There's a look there at the latest warning, and we'll have more soon. Again, be safe. We do have that tornado watch. I'll bring you up to date on the tornado watch real quickly, because that's the newest piece of information that came down here in the last few minutes. And we thank our astute viewers out there that brought us up to date, because Storm Prediction Center, they have kind of a shift change there at 1 in the afternoon. And so we have a tornado watch across southern Illinois. Everybody else generally a severe thunderstorm watch. We'll have a breakdown shortly. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.